Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 81 of Sooner Girl Sports Pod. And I cannot wait for you to hear my guest this week as we recap SEC Media Days, preview the season, and of course, we talk a little bit about Oklahoma with Eddie Radosevich of SoonerScoop. He is so hilarious. He's so much fun to talk to. I really enjoyed visiting with him and all of his knowledge about all the sports. And so I cannot wait for you guys to hear this conversation. But before we get there, let's thank our show sponsors and get into the Sooner headlines of the week. Thank you to our show sponsor, Marvin's Place, a fine art gallery and listening room located in the Depot District in Ardmore, Oklahoma. Come experience amazing artwork. And on Friday nights, visit the listening room, an intimate and unplugged venue hosting singers and songwriters on Friday evenings from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Relax with a glass of wine or craft beer and enjoy some wonderful music. You can find out more, including links to all of their social media, their music, calendar, and all artwork and jewelry available at the gallery on their website at marvinsplace.gallery. Also, thank you to Therapy to Go in Ardmore, the funnest place in town to drive through for a drink. You don't even have to get out of your car. They have a large variety of spirits as well as fountain drinks and snacks, and you can find them on Facebook and Instagram at Therapy to Go Ardmore. Also, thank you to Hogans Jif-E-Lube in Ardmore, your one-stop shop for full-service oil change, filters, and tires for your vehicle. So go by and see everyone that I listed here and tell them that Larissa from Sooner Girl Sports Pod sent you. As you know, if you do not follow me on social media, please go and do so. I am on every platform that you can imagine at Sooner Girl Pod with the same handle on every platform. So please, if you are on any of those platforms and you do not already go follow me, be sure you share with a friend, invite someone else to follow as well. I'm also working to build a community on Discord. If you are not familiar with Discord, it is a platform where you can have subcategories and conversations with people to share information and chat about things that are going on. And so I have set up a Discord. It is brand new. I have not been able to do much with it, but I have different categories for all the sports, all the different things that go on here with Sooner Girl Sports Pod. So if you're interested in the Discord link, I will put that in the show notes. So I would love to see you there on Discord. Also, I'm posting that on my social media as well. And I will share that in the show notes. So if you are on Discord, please go and join me there. And be sure and share it with a friend. The day that this episode drops on Wednesday, July the 29th, we will be 37 days from kickoff. You guys, we are getting so close. It's getting very exciting. August is almost here in just a few days. And so it's all downhill from there. And I'm super excited. I cannot wait. Don't have a lot to say on football on this segment. I will get into more of that with my conversation with Eddie after the rest of the headlines. But in case you missed it, men's and women's basketball announced their Bedlam doubleheader at Paycom Center in Oklahoma City on Saturday, December 12th. It is officially on that day. Game times will be announced at a later time. Tickets will go on sale to the general public on August 7th. However, if you are a season ticket holder for either men's or women's basketball or a Sooner Club member, you may have gotten a pre-sale on Monday, the 27th. I got one, and so I was able to secure my tickets in section 103. So be sure and grab your tickets. Let me know if you're going to be there. I would love to say hello to you at the Bedlam doubleheader on Saturday, December 12th at Paycom in Oklahoma City. Also, our men's basketball team announced they will be playing Arizona State at the BOK Center in Tulsa on Saturday, December the 5th. So if you are interested in taking a trip up the Turnpike to cheer on our men's basketball team against Arizona State in a fun little revenge game, be sure and check out that information on Soonersports.com. I will go ahead and point out that is the same day as the SEC championship football game. That's championship Saturday. Also, lots of things going on around that time of year, but I just wanted to point that out. If you're interested in cheering on our basketball team in Tulsa, be sure and put that on your calendar and make plans to be at the BOK Center. Congratulations to our men's gymnast, Taz Haju, for advancing to the finals on floor and rings in the Hungarian Men's National Championship. He also won the national title in steel rings this past weekend and earned a spot on Hungary's 7-man selection squad with a chance to join the Hungarian national team. So congratulations to Taz. Also, congratulations to former Sooner pitcher and national champion Alex Storako for being inducted to the Illinois Sports Hall of Fame this past weekend. Also, a quick recap on the AUSL, who wrapped up their season just this past weekend. OKC Sparks' season ended in Durham last Tuesday after a rain delay postponed the game. But what a great season they had in the AUSL. under our former Sooner Amber Flores, and former Sooners on that team, Haley Lee, Sid Romero, and of course, Kinsey Hansen will be back with them next summer on that roster as well. But what a great season for them, and looking forward to the future. But on to the AUSL playoffs. Our girl, Elena Agbayani, walked off the Chicago Bandits in the chip-in game for the championship series last Thursday night in the 11th inning to send them to the champ series this past weekend, where they faced Jada Coleman's Utah Talons. So proud of Elena. If you missed her walk-off in the 11th inning, be sure and go check out social media for that. But the Chicago Bandits and Talons played in the champ series this past weekend in College Station, and the Talons won in 2 games. Jada Coleman is now an AU champ. So congratulations to our former Sooner Jada Coleman and the Utah Talons for their win of the AUSL this summer. Also want to give a shout out to a couple more former Sooners who were named to the AUSL All-Star Cup that will be being played soon. Elena Agbayani from the Bandits and Jada Coleman from the Talons. They joined the Sooners that I listed on last week's episode in the All-Star Cup, so very, very proud of them. Just a reminder, soccer and volleyball full schedules are out. There are lots of opportunities to get out and support our girls this season. It's free admission for soccer again this year. Volleyball, those tickets will go on sale here shortly, so I will be sure and update you on the podcast when those are available. But the Big Ten SEC clash in Norman, September 3rd and 4th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. The good news is on Friday the 4th, our kickoff is at 7 p.m. at the Palace, and you can come check out the volleyball game that afternoon at McCaslin, just across the sidewalk on the north side of the stadium at 2 p.m. So it works out really great for us football fans who will already be in the area to check that out. But again, full schedules out for soccer and volleyball, so be sure and check those out on their social media, on the website, and mark your calendar and get out and support our girls. I had soccer player Ali Lassanoli on earlier this spring. I'm working on getting another girl on soon. Also, I've had a couple volleyball girls on in the past, Sydney Thompson and Lydia Martin. They will be hosting our new transfer in from Washington, Elise Hani, on the podcast here in just a couple weeks, so you guys will not want to miss that one. Also want to give a shout out to our former Sooner and guests on the podcast, Julia Garcia Ruiz, for competing in the Central American Caribbean Games this past weekend. Congratulations to her. Also, we have lots of Sooner men and women on tour around the world, former and current Sooners, so you'll want to check out the tennis social media accounts to stay updated on that and follow all of our girls and guys around the world. Also, shout out to our Sooner rowers who are representing the Sooners overseas this summer. Noemi De Vicezzi in the U21 Women's 4+ in Italy, and Hannah Stalkowska, U23 Women's 4+ in Poland. So apologize if I butchered their names. I'm so sorry. But shout out to our Sooner rowers for representing Sooner Nation around the globe. Also want to give a shout out to our former golfer Ryder Cohen for playing in the PGA Tour this past weekend as he continues to do great things. Also, don't forget about all of our club sports. We have our women's flag football team that will be playing this fall. Our women's hockey team has several games already slated this fall. Also, women's lacrosse. They don't play till the spring, but be sure and go give them a follow so you stay up to date on their social media when their schedule is dropped. Also, men's hockey will be playing this fall as well. Those games usually start in September. We have lots of club sports, so be sure you go and check them out on social media. Give them a follow. They're all on Instagram. I'll be sure and share that information in my Facebook, Instagram stories, and on Twitter/X when it is available. So be sure and give me a follow as well at Sooner Girl Pod so you do not miss any updates on our club sports. Okay, just another quick shout out to our Sooner MVPs of the week. Jada Coleman on being an AUSL champ with the Utah Talons, Taz Haju for being the Hungarian Steel Rings national champion and earning a spot with the Hungarian national team. Also, Alex Duraco on being inducted to the Illinois Sports Hall of Fame. And for our 2 rowers, Noah and Hannah, for representing the Sooners overseas in Italy and Poland. Okay, to end this segment with a Sooner fun fact of the week, George Frazier is a former OU baseball pitcher who won a World Series with the Minnesota Twins in 1987. So just in case you miss it, I recently recorded with our women's head basketball coach, Jenny Bronchek. That episode will be coming in September, along with our roughneck little sis, Sydney Tatum, a former football standout, Jenny O'Grissom, and Kirsten Deal, our former softball pitcher, national champion. Can't wait for you guys to hear those. Also have some other great episodes coming up later in the fall. We will be running the game ball to Dallas for the Red River rivalry with our Naval ROTC member Gwyneth Wells later in October, as well as former basketball standout Liz Scott, Kennedy Clark, our discus thrower, and Leah Daniels, our wrestler. And again, coming up in August next week, you will not want to miss on August the 5th, the Oklahoma episode. I have short interviews with 5 different players coming up to recap the national championship run. And you guys will not want to miss that one. I have pitcher Jason Bowden, Dayton Talkie and his mom, Christy, Jackson Cleveland and his mom, Kristen, Dayton LaChance, Big Maple, and also Trey Gamble joined me just for about 10 or 15 minutes each to talk Oklahoma. And on next week's episode that drops on August the 5th, that is all you will be getting. I won't do a Sooner Headlines of the Week segment on next week's show. It will just be Oklahoma. But if anything happens, I will, of course, will be posting on social media throughout the next couple of weeks. So again, be sure and give me a follow at Sooner Girl Pod so you don't miss anything. And I will update you on the August 12th show when Coach Veronique Druin-Luttrell, our women's golf head coach, joins me to talk about her summer and their win at the Palmer Cup, as well as the upcoming season for women's golf. So won't want you to miss that one. Also later in August, we have our new drum major, Christian Rosales, and again, Elise Hani, our volleyball player. So a great slate coming up on Sooner Girl Sports Pod the next couple of months. And I have even more things in the works for later in the fall. So cannot wait for you guys to hear all of that. But again, be sure and go follow me on all social media. Go and grab some merch, soonergirl.bigcartel.com. Ladies, as I'm recording this on Monday, the 27th, I'm having my monthly online huddle with my locker room girls. But tonight we're having a special episode, home plate huddle with Dayton Talkie's mom and Jackson Cleveland's mom. And we do so many fun things with the locker room. Ladies, if you're not a member, you are missing out. So be sure you go check out my Substack and join that so you don't miss out on all the giveaways. You get a discount on merch. We have a private chat, private Instagram feed, all kinds of fun things. So you won't want to miss out on any of that going forward. So again, check out my Substack for that. Also go to Substack. You can sign up for free to get my monthly newsletter called The Playbook delivered directly to your inbox. It will be coming out later this week, so make sure you go get signed up for that before it drops at the end of the week. Also, if you're interested in advertising sponsorships, you can email me at SoonerGirlSportsPod@gmail.com. You can find all of this information on my link in bio, which is my link tree. It's on all of my social media platforms. You can find all that I mentioned and more. But for now, let's move on to my awesome interview with Eddie Radosevich from SoonerScoop to recap SEC Media Days and gear up for football season as we are rapidly approaching. I do want to give a shout out, a quick thank you to my friend Barb, Boomer Barb. I met her in Salt Lake City a few years ago when I traveled out for the BYU football game. And I want to give her a shout out. She has an awesome tailgate before football. I love being able to go by and visit them a few times during the season, as well as Barb is who introduced me to George and Eddie from SoonerScoop. You can see that photo on my social media that will be dropping here in a couple of days. I took a photo with them and they are just the nicest guys. So much fun to talk to. I hate that George could not make it to the interview for the show, but I'll be catching him a different time for sure to come on to the show. But Eddie is so kind and I truly appreciate him coming on the show to chat all things OU football and a little bit of baseball as well on this week's show. But you can hear Eddie on the Franchise Morning Show every day, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. He is a born and raised in the 405, proud graduate of Putnam City North High School. He is a videographer and staff writer for SoonerScoop.com of the Rivals.com network. And you can catch all of his shenanigans with George a lot of the time on his social media. Be sure to give him a follow on Instagram and Twitter at Eddie_Rado. And you can also find him on TikTok at Eddie Rado. And you can follow on all platforms, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at SoonerScoop. And find out more on their website at SoonerScoop.com. I will, of course, link all of this in the show notes and on social media. throughout the week as I tag him in all of the clips. So I hope you guys enjoy my interview with Eddie Radosevich of SoonerScoop as we get ready for football season. And next week, you won't want to miss the Oklahoma episode with so many great guys, national champions from OU. What a fantastic episode. I cannot wait for you guys to hear it. So remember, no Sooner headlines of the week on next week's show, but I will be back with Coach Vero of our women's golf team on August the 12th, and I'll get you caught up on all the things. But until then, enjoy my interview with Eddie Radosevich, and I will see you next Wednesday where we talk sports. Well, thank you so much for giving me part of your time. I know that you're super busy, and it means a lot. So I met you guys in Salt Lake City almost 3 years ago.
Yes.
I met Barb, and she introduced me to you and George. I love Barb so much.
She's a gem.
She really is. And she is crazy like me. And so we really hit it off. And so she is incredible. But I love meeting you guys. I love listening to your instant reactions after football games and all the things. So yeah, you guys are some of my favorites for sure.
I appreciate it.
Of course. It means a lot that you took time for me. And also I have to ask you about the new studio because I know you guys, it looks fantastic and you guys are ready for football.
I know. It's definitely like a long time coming. This was something that carried when I started work for SoonerScoop after I graduated from OU in 2010 that we always kind of talked about because we did a lot of stuff out of his house.
Yeah.
And for it to like kindly come to fruition and we actually have it now and getting ready for the football season, it's pretty exciting. So
that is awesome.
It's been a long time coming, but definitely excited about it. And I'm one of those people that if it was up to me, we'd probably just have a light and a camera and a microphone and we'd be ready to go. But Carrie definitely took it, if he does something, it's full on. So it's been awesome. For sure.
Well, I love it. It looks fantastic and I'm excited for you guys. Okay. So first of all, I'd be remiss without talking about Omaha because I know you guys spent a lot of time there and, I'm sure you took like a one-way trip, so to speak, and didn't really know how long you were going to be there. But I was there for opening weekend and for a few days and it was so awesome. And obviously, like, as we're recording this, we're 1 month out from winning that national championship and I still can't believe it. So
I know. It was crazy. And luckily I went in 2022 and covered it for 12 days and I was in the championship series. So I kind of like knew the lay of the land of like how the schedule was going to work. And when I kind of talked George into coming with me, it was more of a, hey man, tell your wife we'll be gone for 4 days at most. We'll be back. It's not going to be that far, but what a magical run. And then it was crazy to kind of follow it all season and know that they had, they had some highs at the beginning of the year and then they hit that lull. And I remember walking out of Bricktown Ballpark with Skip after they lost the Thursday night opener to Tennessee. And it kind of felt like the season was coming to an end. It kind of felt like,
I was there that night. Yeah.
I mean, have 17 hits and you still find a way to lose. So it was a lot of fun. And I think that like even going back to Lawrence to the Super Regional, it was still just kind of a pinch me moment. Like, I can't believe they did that in Atlanta and the way that they won that game with Dayton Taki's walk-off was incredible. And the Omaha experience, I tried to tell everybody in some of the stories that we did up there that there's something still like mystical about it. From a college athletic standpoint that has changed so much over the last 10, 15 years, but specifically probably the last 5 years. There's still like an innocence to it. And it's still one of those like ultimate college athletic experiences.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think that like that's a really cool part of college baseball. And like we get it a little bit here in Oklahoma City with the Women's College World Series, but it's just so much different. And maybe it's because you're not staying in a hotel and you're sleeping in your own bed and all that.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And then being able to tell some of those kids' stories, the guys on the team, whether it be the Branch family that everybody saw from a national perspective.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Or George running down and grabbing Dayton LaChance's parents. They live 30 minutes out to an hour north of Montreal and they barely even speak English.
I know.
It was incredible. And then the freshman pitchers and, ultimately the team was an awesome story. Super happy for Skip because I think that everybody was kind of able to finally find out like who Skip Johnson is.
Yes.
He's truly one of the best guys that you could ever come across. So it was a lot of fun. And, I know that you've had Toby on before and, just being able to run down in the press box and go into the booth for a little bit and watch some of the games. It was just a memorable experience, and truly, like, I think that George wrote it after the game, but I think in Oklahoma athletic history, just truly one of the more surprising, just kind of like, oh my God, out of nowhere moments that has ever happened. So it was incredible. That entire month of just kind of following them around and then being up at Omaha for 12 days. It was truly, truly pretty special.
It was.
And something that, like, I'm going to remember forever, just in terms of being able to cover it and kind of, I guess, being a small part in the bigger picture of what it was.
For sure. Well, that was my first time there. And my husband and I obviously are big sports people. And we were just planning to go to Omaha. We decided last year, we were like, why have we never gone? Let's just plan to go in 2026. And so I booked hotels like.
Oh, no. So you did it without even knowing.
Yes. So
my gosh.
I booked hotels like back in the fall. And when tickets went on sale earlier, I want to say like February or March, I bought tickets for like the opening weekend. And I just thought, well, hell, maybe we'll get lucky and make it. And my husband actually graduated from Oklahoma State, so he's a Pope.
Okay.
But we were just like, okay, maybe one of our teams will make it. And I always tell people that he says he would rather OU do better than his own school because he doesn't want to have to listen to me, bitch. And that is the God honest truth. And so he was ecstatic, of course, with OU making it. And then I had Brendan Brock on earlier in the spring. And so we'd kind of been following him and had that connection there. And so, yeah, he was attached to the team also, but we had the best time. And now everybody's like, okay, it's time for you to start booking hotels for all the playoff locations.
Sure.
So
see you in Vegas.
Yes, exactly. I need to get on it for sure.
That's awesome. I can't believe that it came together like that too. And
I can't either. I don't know that I've ever had that best of luck or intuition or whatever it was, but I'm truly thankful that it worked out. It worked out obviously far beyond my greatest imagination. And I wish I could have gone back for the championship series, but life and duty calls.
Sure.
But I was back home in Oklahoma. And of course I didn't miss a moment, didn't miss a pitch. And it was just incredible. And I just enjoyed being able to be there at some part and play just a small role in being a fan in Omaha. It was truly incredible. So I tell everybody, just make plans and go do your thing wherever you want to go, because it's always worth it. And it's even more worth it when your team's there.
Yeah, and I think it is one of those things. Like, even if Oklahoma wasn't there, it would have been a special experience.
For sure, incredible,
and kind of experience everything that comes with it. Because Omaha does such a great job of.
Yes,
there's just a vibe that you can feel. It's like every person that you come in contact to on that south side of downtown, or I guess the west side of downtown.
Yes.
Everybody's there for the baseball.
Yes, it was incredible.
It's a special experience.
I loved it. Well, I'm so glad that I got to go, and I'll definitely go back sometime, especially if OU makes it. And I did tell my husband, if OSU makes it to Omaha, we've got to go back for him because he deserves to experience that as well. So
absolutely.
Okay, well, we're all shifting gears in our brains to football season. And I think if my math is correct, when this episode drops on Wednesday, we'll be 37 days until kickoff. So we are literally in the final month, basically. And I'm ready, as we all are, especially since baseball is over. But I have on my shirt, Hard to Kill.
Very good.
I am ready for everything. And so I watched, of course, the media days on Monday with Eddie Pierre-Louis, John Mateer, and Taylor Wine. So tell me a little bit on some of your thoughts on some things. We'll just start with Brent Venables. And I know, one of the things he said that stuck out to me was him just talking about the leadership on the team and how it was hard for him to pick those three guys to go and represent Oklahoma football. And I thought that was a really good statement to hear, because you always like to hear that there's leadership in multitudes, obviously, in the locker room. So tell me a little bit of your thoughts on that. That's a good problem to have. So what are you kind of thinking going forward, just hearing him say that?
Yeah, I think it's a big positive. And I think that, a lot of, what we're going to be talking about here over the next month and a half until the start of the season on September 4th is just the fact that there is a lot of returning guys from a team that, I think certainly exceeded expectations a year ago. I always go back to that Ole Miss weekend, and kind of the conversations that everybody was having at the time was looking ahead at the schedule and knowing that you had a Knoxville, knowing you had a trip to Tuscaloosa, and top 25 teams in Missouri and possibly LSU at the time coming to Norman, and how they were going to end the season. And it was kind of one of those like punch in the gut moments of like, man, everybody that you come in contact with in Norman, they want Brent to succeed, but in time, like they weren't able to get over that hump. And I think that like you start there, they build the confidence, they get the 10 wins, they get to the college football playoff. And as disappointing as the season ended, I think it kind of set a tone and a barrier for what's to come with the rest of the whatever's to come in the future. And I think that, being able to get guys like John Mateer to come back, getting Taylor Wine in the breakout season that he had, Eddie Pierre-Louis obviously has matured a ton since he a year ago. They're kind of like the three guys that they certainly picked. And Brent, obviously, as you said, talked about the leadership in the room. I think that's a positive. And we talked about it on our podcast yesterday, just in terms of like, it feels like they're so much further ahead from where they were a year ago in terms of leadership. Like if that's step one, they're like on step 3 right now. And I think, when you have the first 5 games that they have coming up this season, it's a good starting point.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of fun to see how it all kind of comes together. Obviously, there's like, minuscule questions about like the wide receiver unit or how this thing's going to look offensively. And John Mateer and the steps that he's made. George wrote a great 4-piece article talking about his offseason that we have on SoonerScoop.com right now. It feels good right now. It certainly feels like they're in a better place than they were at this time a year ago. And I think John kind of said it to an extent too and it might have been Brent even that mentioned it up on the podium, is that they went out and they won in Tuscaloosa. They won in Knoxville the week before. And I think just being able to say, okay, you can go do that from a mental point really helps. And it's going to be a culmination of a lot of things if they're able to get over this next hump, which is obviously finding more success in the college football playoff, getting back to the playoffs this season. So it feels different. I mean, I know that just talking to George and Parker coming back from Tampa, that I think Oklahoma to a certain extent is being looked at a little bit differently than maybe it was in past seasons.
For sure.
And it's because of the success that they found at the end of the season and the way that they were able to sustain themselves. So it feels like, I think Jim Nagy said the other day, like, the culture is the standard. And I think that it's kind of been reestablished a little bit, which is obviously a good step in the right direction from a program that back in the middle of October last year, following the Texas game, following a loss at home to Ole Miss, you didn't really know like if they were going to be able to find that success, if they were going to be able to get over that hump with Brent as coach. And, I've kind of fallen back on just that 20-day period with the bye week in between the win in Knoxville and then the win in Tuscaloosa. Like, that's changed the trajectory of the program to a certain extent in knowing that, okay, like the Brent Venables conversation, that's going to be put to the side. We know he's going to be around for a while now. And so that part is fun. And just knowing Brent and liking Brent and wanting him to succeed, that part is a lot easier to talk about now. So I think that all kind of wraps into the leadership qualities that I think the program has right now. And certainly all the guys that you think of when you think of the guys outside of John Mateer, Taylor Wine, and Eddie Pierre-Louis, like it's in a really good spot. And you have Kip Lewis, you have Owen Heineke coming back. You have so many of these guys on the defensive side of the ball, as well as guys on the offensive side of the ball, and Isaiah Satania, Torrey Blaylock, Xavier Robinson, and then obviously the offensive line that's all coming back this season. You add in a Marion Harris from Arkansas. It feels like this is going to be a really good team. I'm kind of interested to see like where they end up in the preseason SEC poll when that comes out at the end of the week. But it's setting a foundation, I think, for what's to come. And obviously, they kind of got to come out of the gates pretty hot because you look at the schedule and nobody did them any favors with the trip to Michigan and the Georgia game and the Texas game back to back for those first 5. So it's kind of like terrifying if you allow it to be when you look at the schedule. But at the same time, like from a traveling standpoint, this schedule is like a
fantastic.
It's a fan's like bucket list dream.
Absolutely.
House in Gainesville at the Swamp and between the hedges in Athens. So very exciting, very challenging at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I am excited about kicking off the season with a night game on a Friday, and I know that there's a lot of opinions on that, but I think it's a great move, especially I know that they've kind of confirmed what everybody was saying. Well, it's nice to have an extra day to prepare for Michigan, and it is. And I'm fine with that. I think it's a great way to kick off the season. Everybody loves a night game. And of course, the temperature will help as well. But I think that that's a great way to kind of start getting the fans really kind of riled up for the season with that night game. And then obviously it should be a blowout game on our end. And then going to Michigan week 2. I'm actually going to Michigan. That one's been on my list for like a decade now, or however long it's been on the calendar. I told my husband, we're going to Ann Arbor. And of course, he was like, yes, we are going to the big house. And so we have made those plans and we'll be there. And so I'm very excited about that one. I'm not super thrilled about the early kickoff, but I guess we're kind of used to that to an extent. But yeah, of course, I really hope we get a win in Ann Arbor. And I think that we have a good chance of doing so with all the kind of drama, I guess, going on up there. But anyway, coming out of Ann Arbor, like you said, we're heading to Athens and then go to Dallas for OU Texas. I've heard Gabe and Teddy talk about this. I've heard so many people talk about, well, if we had to pick who we lost to, like, who would it be? Well, obviously, we don't want to lose to anybody, but I think a lot of people are kind of like, well, Georgia on the road doesn't look so bad, and your quote quality loss that everybody hates to talk about, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but I'm just, if we could go into Athens and just really, put on a good show, I think that would be fantastic, and just really play a complimentary game. I think that's what we're looking for. And then obviously we're long overdue for a win in Dallas. I am tired of going down there and just not having a good time.
Yeah.
So I really am hoping that we come out of Dallas with a win for sure. In my opinion, if we can come out of Ann Arbor and Dallas with a win, that will be a great start to the season. And, the back half, we've got quite a few more exciting games coming up. But I think if we can go into that back half sitting with that one loss, even, I would be more than ecstatic. So that's my hopes for now.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And I think that, like, much like every Oklahoma fan, the lack of success at the Cotton Bowl over the last couple of years, like, maybe score a touchdown, that would be the right direction.
It would.
It has been painful to watch some of those games.
And, really
I just remember back thinking during the time period here over the last 10, 15 years where Oklahoma has found a lot of success in Dallas. I think that that's kind of like what makes the rivalry so special, is because it does feel like if you're walking out of the Cotton Bowl, if you're walking out of the fair waiting for a Uber or for a ride, like, it's the end of the world if you lose that game. And I think that that's one of the things that makes college athletics to a certain extent so special. It makes the OU Texas game particularly so special because there is so many eyeballs, so much intrigue that goes into that game. Obviously, two passionate fan bases that the game is very meaningful to. To still, even in today's, kind of modern era of college athletics. So, yeah, I agree with you. 4-1. If you can get through that first 5 games, 4-1, that's great. Obviously, if you go 5-0, you're probably talking about a team that's going to be ranked in the top 3, maybe not number 1 in the country. So, very excited for the start of the season. And I think that, like, looking back at just some of the ways that Oklahoma won games, and especially the back half of the season and the wins on the road, being able to just find ways to win in those the Missouri and the LSU game to end the season. Those are things that weren't happening at the first 3-4 years of Brent's career here in Norman. And I think that, like, just getting over that hump and knowing that they can do it was a big thing. And it's going to be kind of fun to see how this defense comes together. Obviously, a lot of household names in Oklahoma fans' homes that are coming back to be a part of this. And it certainly feels like if those guys didn't think that they had a chance to be able to really, truly go compete for a national title, maybe they wouldn't have come back. So it feels good about the culture. It feels good to have some, in a way, I guess, vindication that they are doing things the right way and they're finding success. And I think it's going to ultimately come down to if the offense can just take that another step that everybody kind of expects them to take. With John and the offensive line that returns a bunch of starts, a bunch of snaps together. I think that that's one thing that when you look at the first 5 games of the season, and how many times have we talked about from a media standpoint of, well, Bill Beatabow's offensive line, they always take a little bit of time to gel together. These guys have played a lot of football together. And I think getting somebody like a Jake Michaela back into the rotation at center after he had to miss the last couple of games at the end of the season last year really helps. And then obviously just general natural progressions for Michael Fasusi, Ryan Foje, Eddie Pierre-Louis, obviously, that was talked about in Tampa on Monday. It seems like they're all taking a step in the right direction. And, I'm kind of intrigued to just see what this thing looks like. I know it finally gets here and it feels like football season has started. And then they start practice and it's like, well, they still have 30 something days until kickoff. So it's going to be a long 30 days. Like, just make sure that everybody gets healthy, stays healthy. And get to September 4th and then beyond. And it's going to be a lot of fun to just see how it all goes. There's nothing more special than the start of the football season.
For sure.
Especially around these parts.
Yeah, I'm ready. Like you said, I do feel like that last month is pretty long. But I've been thinking about all the guys we brought in through the portal this past offseason. And one of those that stuck out while we were talking about OU Texas, of course, is Parker Livingston.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an interesting dynamic. I'm intrigued to see how that goes in Dallas. And I hope he has a stellar game. I hope he just balls out against his former Texas team, obviously, but I'm really excited to see how him, and I know we've heard a lot about Cole Sullivan, and my brain is drawing a blank right now, but I know there's several other big names as well that we're hearing a lot about that came in from the portal, and I'm excited to see how they fit in with all those names you mentioned that are coming back on that leadership role. And just, I've heard great things about the transfer guys really stepping up and not acting like they're newbies. So that's also good to hear.
Yeah, no, it is. And I remember thinking like the Parker Livingston, like there's just plays that stick out particularly to be, especially last year at the Cotton Bowl that I think Arch hit him for like a big game. It was like a 15-yard gain on a third down late, or it might have been like middle of the third quarter. It was a fantastic throw, but Parker Livingston made the play. And I just remember thinking like, he's going to be one of those guys at the OU Texas game for the next 5 years that you just feel like makes a play against Oklahoma every season. And then, 6 months later, we're standing there out on the OU practice field and he's practicing for OU and during the spring ball. And I love what he brings to the program. Obviously, one of those guys that I think, certainly is going to be dependent upon somebody that you can rely on. I love that he has a little bit of experience. You match him with Terrell Harris coming in from Virginia. We didn't see a whole lot of him during the spring because he had a little bit of a injury that came in from Virginia with. So, Brent, that was nice to hear the update at SEC Media Days that he's running full strength right now.
Yes.
You look at the defense, and I think that like even a guy like a Bishop Thomas that's coming in from Georgia State, I think he's going to play. And when you lose guys like a Dominic Williams and a Grayson Halton in the middle on the interior of your defensive line, it's great to have David Stone. It's great to have Jaden Jackson. Need depth. And that's what was so fantastic for them a year ago, was that they were able to throw guys out there and really not have a huge drop off. So I'm excited about him. Cole Sullivan, I think just talking and hearing from Jim Nagy, talking the way that he talks about him, I think he could end up being an all SEC type guy. He brings in versatility. Linebacker room that when they were able to get Owen Heineke back, he can now play a little bit more of the cheetah position. The defense. Very excited to see what he brings to the table. And even a guy like a Mackenzie Alene, I don't think that anybody really thought much of him or thought much of him coming in from Washington State. He had a really nice spring, and I think he's going to be somebody that is, kind of an interesting player going into the preseason to see if he can pick up where he left off during the spring. So they did a really good job of going out and getting guys in the transfer portal. I think the one weekend that they brought everybody in, they ended up getting everybody but 3 of the guys that they brought in. And so they have a clear kind of conscience on what they are trying to do from a portal standpoint, the execution of it. And I think it's great. Really helped with Jim Nagy in that front office and being able to kind of have a game plan from day one. When the portal opens, these are the guys that we're going to target. This is the money allocation that we're going to give for each player. And I think just like the structured regiment of what that is has really kind of helped calm things, especially over the Switzer Center where, the coaches, they have to worry about it, but they don't necessarily have to worry about the particulars anymore. And I think that's kind of helped everything from a coaching standpoint.
Absolutely.
Then obviously I think like the tight end position and what they've kind of done and the re-envisioning of it under Jason Witten, which is still just one of the most like pinch me moments walking out. Jason Witten's the tight ends coach at Oklahoma.
I can't imagine. If I ever see him, I will freak out.
it's super surreal. And I think that like Hayden Hansen, Rocky Beers, Jack Van Dorsler, guys are going to come in and they're going to be contributors from day one. And I think it's going to help in the bigger picture, the grand scheme of things of what Oklahoma wants to do from the offensive side of the ball and being able to run the ball more efficiently, being able to block the edges. And I think that like those guys maybe won't be guys that necessarily you look at a box score and go, Hayden Hansen had an unbelievable game. He had 10 receptions for 150 yards. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do think that you're going to look out there and that's going to be a much stronger unit for them. And in turn, it's going to make the offense much better.
Yes. Well, I think that everybody wants to hear that we're going to run the ball. And that there's improvement in the tight end room. And I think, like we were talking about with Jason Witten, just that name alone carries so much weight and prestige. I mean, it's just so crazy. Like you said, I can't imagine walking in a practice and seeing him being like, "What's he doing here? Oh, wait, he works here." So that's just incredible. So But yeah, I know a lot of people are talking about, okay, I hope we can run the ball. And I can't remember who said it at some point on Monday, but they were like, hey, we think if Oklahoma can run the ball, they could really be a national championship contender. And I think that that's obviously good news to hear. And I think that's something that, fans want to see more of. And we saw a little bit last year, but yeah, I think just improvement on the offense overall and those things are going to make a big difference. I'm excited to see. And then Mateer coming back and being that leader. Obviously, you typically see your quarterback chosen to go to SEC Media Days, but it still means a lot to see him being a good leader for that group. And I think him, and part of me feels bad for him. Like, I just think if that were my son, I would feel so bad that he's carrying that weight on him. But also, it's a good thing that he is, because he is mature enough to recognize it and see it. And he's obviously trying to learn and grow from it. And he's really beefed up, gained a lot of weight and muscle. And so he's not just physically learning and growing, but he's mentally learning and growing. And so I'm excited to see that growth in him on the field as well, because I think he had a good base. He came from a place where he had a good numbers and all of that. And obviously with that injury, that took a much bigger toll on him, especially at the time, than we all realized. But he recognizes it. We all can see it. And I think it's nowhere but going up from there. And I'm very excited about that for sure.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I think it's a lot about, and finding a run game kind of goes hand in hand with, I think that he just needs to do less and just be the quarterback. And I think that there were so many times last year, particularly when you're not able to run the football to the manner that they wanted to be able to, you had to put the ball in his hands. He had to get hit a little bit more. And I think that, like, the hand thing, obviously, it affected him a lot more. I remember doing some reports at the end of the year, and it's like, we're 3 months removed from this. Can we please stop talking about it? He's fine. He's playing. And he was still having trouble gripping the football. And I think that obviously played a part in kind of the offense's inefficiencies a year ago. They went out and they got help for him, around him, talking about the wide receivers that we've talked about, talking about the tight end unit, and that's going to culminate with a much better performance. And then an offensive line that obviously had to throw some freshmen out there a year ago. Mike Fasusi, Ryan Foje had to kind of learn the hard way in the SEC. And I think that, like, those guys obviously have taken a step from development standpoint. It's going to be a much better offensive line. And I think in turn, it's going to help the running backs. And I'm really excited to see, like, who those running backs are from day one that you're able to depend on. And you have Xavier Robinson coming back. You have Torrey Blaylock coming back, who played a little bit injured towards the back end of the year with his shoulder. I'm very excited about Jonathan Hatton, the true freshman, as well as the second Walker, who turned heads during the spring. And don't forget about Lloyd Avant. He's a guy that I think that they went out and they were able to really kind of center in on out of the transfer portal. Certainly going to be somebody that helps them in the return game a little bit. The kick return game, particularly. He did that at Colorado State, but he's a guy that has played a lot of college football. He's a guy that I think you can depend on a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they give him a little bit of run early in the season to kind of see what he can get. So Jalen McCullough done a really good job his first year, obviously, going in. He comes in with Jason Witten, the two new coaches on the offensive side of the football. Very excited to see those guys work during the preseason and just being around him a little bit. And kind of the media, a lot of times that we were able to go out there during the spring. Not the most different than DeMarco by any means, but at the same token, I think he is maybe focusing on a little bit of a different thing and just some of the drills that they were doing. I'm kind of excited to see how that all comes together, but they have some really good options in the backfield alongside John Mateer, and I think it's going to come to fruition this year.
I love it. I love to hear that. Okay, so I know we've talked about a lot about what are some things maybe that stuck out to you that was said at SEC Media Day that you think is important that we need to all have on our brains going forward as we start the season?
Yeah, I would preface this by saying he does live with him. He's his roommate. But Taylor Wine talking about PJ Adebawore, I think that's a big deal. And when you look, and obviously R. Mason Thomas now moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs, that's a big deal on the opposite side of Taylor Wine, who they can develop on that side of the football, or the other side of the defensive line. If PJ can start living up to the 5-star moniker that he came in with. And I would say, too, he played a lot better than people probably realized a year ago, especially at the end of the year when R. Mason wasn't able to play in some of those games with the hamstring injury. If he can continue that projection, it feels like that will be a big positive for Oklahoma moving forward. So I was super excited that Taylor Wine said that he feels like PJ is going to be kind of the Taylor Wine of this year going into this season. And then I think that, John, just talking about, like, I feel like we're going to talk about John, and we have been talking about John so much. It's going to be overblown a little bit going into the season. But at the same token, I do feel like he's one of those guys that is very cognitive of everything that's going on around him. And I think much like, and we kind of use this as the example, and I don't know if it's just laziness or if it really is truly, some validity to it, but he feels like the leap that Dylan Gabriel took from year 1 to year 2
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of just being comfortable, being able to walk around Norman, just go to the store and you're going to get recognized. People are going to come up and talk to you all the time. I think that, like, for somebody that maybe that didn't happen to as much in Pullman, that is something that you have to get used to. It's a different kind of operation when you're the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, as opposed to some other places that everybody has to kind of learn from. And I think he's much more comfortable in his skin than maybe he was a year ago. I think he'd probably agree with that. And I think that there's just a confidence coming with what he's able to, or what he's being asked to do. And kind of the development of him just personally as a quarterback, and the work that he's done with Sam Bradford watching film, the work that he did with Brent Venables watching film, learning about defenses more, and then, just the on-field stuff of how quickly the game moves, especially at the level of the SEC. It's a little bit different than some of the teams that he was playing in the Pac-12. So I'm very excited to see what this version of John Mateer looks like going into the season. And most importantly, John Mateer that is extremely healthy. And then from Eddie Pierre-Louis, I mean, it's just night and day from what he was, from maturity and the way that he talks about himself to the way that he talks about kind of policing his teammates. And it certainly seems like he's become a massive leader on that offensive line, a guy that's extremely comfortable in his own skin. And I think that kind of just goes back into the leadership qualities that Brent was talking about, the evolution of some of these guys that have now been in the program for 2 or 3 years. And they're really certainly kind of taking the expectations and the gravity that comes with playing football at this level. They're much more comfortable with it. I think it's going to kind of come together on the field for him this season.
I am ready. I love all of that. And I agree with what you're saying about, like, I've seen so many of those guys and people talking about how they've grown and taking on their leadership roles. And just compared to where they were last year, it's leaps and bounds in a lot of areas. And that is fantastic news. One thing that stuck out to me that I remember hearing was just Greg Sankey talking about going to the 9-game conference schedule going forward with the SEC. And we've talked about just the magnitude of the conference and how hard it is. And we sometimes have felt like we've gotten the quote short end of the stick on the scheduling, especially last year and all of those road games, which we ended up winning, which was awesome. But those were tough. And then looking at this year's schedule and everything, but just looking forward also in years to come, going to that 9-game conference schedule and just hearing all the things that we've just talked about with the leadership roles and everyone just growing and maturing and taking responsibility and all those things. I just feel like that they're ready to take on another challenge. You know what I mean? I just feel like that these are all good things that go together. And going forward, of course, 9 SEC games is a lot, but it gives me hope and confidence that they're ready to tackle it because they're taking responsibility and growing and learning, and I love to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be week in and week out, and I think that to a lesser extent, Oklahoma kind of sees that. Just they've seen that for the last however many years you want to put on it.
Yeah,
going to some of the Big 12 stops, you're the biggest game on the schedule for that team year. So I think that. Brent talked about it a little bit, how it's a week-to-week thing. And I think that the confidence can only continue to grow from what they did a year ago. And a lot of these guys that were on that team. So it's a tough schedule. There's no doubt about it. But I think that, the challenge that comes with it is something that is probably worth it for a lot of these guys. That's why you sign up to play college football. That's why you sign up to play college football at the University of Oklahoma, is to play in these big moment, big time games, big time atmospheres. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, the schedule is tough, but at the same time, getting out and seeing some of these places that Oklahoma probably haven't been to is a lot of fun in and of itself.
Yes. Well, I think we've seen it in all the sports, and softball comes to mind for sure. Whereas, and we still are like the team to beat with softball, but just facing new teams that we didn't normally play on a regular basis, and it's just a new experience for all of our athletic teams to go to all these new places and face all these new teams, and it's much different than the Big 12. But I've enjoyed it. I've made a couple of road trips, went to Ole Miss, and I'm looking forward to all the fun places that we get to go that's new to us. because we've all been to Lawrence, Kansas, and all these Big 12 stops 100 times, and so it's really cool going forward. Just thinking from a fan's perspective, and I'm sure you as well, being media, just experiencing new places. And I love hearing Toby talk about all of his favorite stadiums to go to, and just how different everybody is. And of course, he's been to a lot of places for a long time, and so for him to get to experience a lot of new places, I know is super cool, just from you guys and that perspective as well. So yeah, it's exciting. The SEC is exciting. And one more thing, I don't know how much this really talked about and how much really people know a lot about it, but I did see where, the SEC, I guess, has talked about possibly pulling from the NCAA. So I don't know what kind of weight that carries or how serious that is, but do you have any thoughts on that?
I just don't. I think it's more of a threat than it is anything else.
That's kind of what I wondered too.
It's pretty tough to schedule everybody if you're not able to play some of these Big Ten teams.
That's kind of what I thought.
If the Big Ten comes out next week and says, yeah, we're probably interested in that as well, I think that's a little bit more of a maybe this is something more interesting than it is. Yeah. But there's so much money being thrown around right now in some of these leagues that I just have a hard time thinking that's something that would come to fruition. But then again, if you would have asked me 15 years ago if OU was going to be the SEC, I probably would have said there's no chance of that either. So I think like today's world, you just got to stay ready and be able to adapt.
So true. That's so true. This time next year, we could be having a totally different conversation.
100%.
So, who knows? Who knows? Okay. Well, do you have any other closing thoughts or anything else you want to share before I let you go?
No, I'm just excited for the season. I think that it's kind of so cliche, but at the same time, like everybody builds these football seasons up and then for the first 4 weeks of the season, we go, well, they didn't learn anything because you're playing these non-conference teams. You're winning by 30, and then you get into the conference season, and everybody gets pissed off about one game or something that somebody says in the media, and it kind of takes on a life of its own. So I cherish the 12 games that you get, and you hope that it's more. And I think that this is going to be a OU football team that gets a lot of people excited, and it should be a lot of fun to cover this season. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, I am looking forward to hopefully another home CFP game in December. That was an incredible atmosphere. It's one of my favorite atmospheres I've ever been in, even though the outcome didn't turn out the way we wanted. But yeah, I'm ready for that again. I'm ready for all the things. So I'm excited. I know you and George will have lots of instant reactions, and I can't wait to see it.
I appreciate it.